We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News, India's Voice to the World. I'm Vipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. Prime Minister Modi congratulates Tariq Rahman on leading BNP to decisive victory in parliamentary elections, assures support for a democratic, progressive and inclusive Bangladesh. Prime Minister Modi to unveil the name of the building complex Seva Tirth and also inaugurate it, which will house PMO Cabinet Secretariat and the National Security Council Secretariat. Trump revokes landmark ruling that greenhouse gases endanger public health, scraps vehicle emission rules, significant rollback on climate change. Trump agrees to end his unprecedented immigration enforcement surge. Protest appears set to continue, vowing to maintain pressure. And in T20 World Cup, India beats Namibia by 93 runs, biggest margin of victory by runs in the tournament, next to clash with Pakistan on February 15th. And on to the details now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Bangladesh National Party chairperson Tariq Rahman on leading the party to a decisive victory in the parliamentary elections in Bangladesh. In a post on X, Prime Minister Modi conveyed his warm congratulations to Rahman for leading the BNP to victory. I quote him here. I convey my warm congratulations to Tariq Rahman on leading BNP to a decisive victory in the parliamentary elections in Bangladesh. This victory shows the trust of the people of Bangladesh in your leadership. India will continue to stand in support of a democratic, progressive and inclusive Bangladesh. I look forward to working with you to strengthen our multifaceted relations and advance our common development goals. Unquote. And as per the latest counts in an election seen as the South Asian nation's first truly competitive in years, BNP leading in 181 constituencies, according to unofficial counts and party tallies. Well, the BNP, which set to return to power after 20 years, thanked the people soon after winning a majority in the overnight vote count and called for special prayers on Friday for the nation and its people. BNP leader Tariq Rahman is widely expected to be sworn in as Prime Minister. The son of the party's founder, former President Ziaur Rahman, Tariq Rahman returned in December to the capital Dhaka from 18 years abroad. And alongside the parliamentary election, a referendum was also held on a set of constitutional reforms. The focus was on establishing a neutral interim government for election periods, restructuring the parliament into a bicameral legislature, increasing women's representation, strengthening judicial independence and introducing a two-term limit for the Prime Minister. There was no official word on the outcome of the referendum. However, leading local newspapers report that 73% of the nearly 296,000 votes cast in the referendum said yes, and the rest said no. And for more on the elections, we have Naval Singh Parmar joining us on the phone line from Dhaka. Well, Naval Singh, with the voting done in the BNP leading now in 170, more than 170 constituencies and claiming a potential two-third majority, how is the political atmosphere right now on the ground in Bangladesh?
BNP party is heading for a decisive victory in this parliamentary election. In 181 seats they have won. Some of them have been declared by Election Commission, while the others are unofficially declared. But 181 seats they won, and its rival party Jamaat-e-Islami and its allied party got 61 seats. Counting continues on 50 seats, counting remaining on 50 seats. So,
right.
According to this trajectory, this tally will go beyond 210. It is expected. So it is a big victory for Bangladesh Nationalist Party, and Tariq Rahman will have a chance to become a Prime Minister of Bangladesh and BNP will have its prime minister after almost 16, 17, 18 years of political, we can say, exile. He returned from London after 17 years. So Tariq Rahman is having a chance to become a prime minister. And BNP party, their activists and the leaders are in jubilant mode. There was a tough fight and there was a tense atmosphere in Dhaka since last few days, but now it seems the relaxed atmosphere, as there was a fear among the people that the election will be violent and there will be widespread clashes among the activists and party leaders of the BNP and Jamaat-e-Islami. But fortunately, this election was comparatively quite peaceful. There was no election-related death in. There were some incidents, but the death was not that due to some political violence. So that way, it is a peaceful election by and large. So the people are now relieved of the political violence during the poll time and during counting. Bangladesh is having a history of political violence. So that is the one thing. Now we have to see how the referendum things will turn up, as only around 44 lakhs votes have been counted. So it is a big way because Bangladesh is having a 12.77 crore voters, and if it is a 60% or 55% of voting in referendum, then it is still we have to go a very long way in the and we have to wait for the final result in referendum front as well as the parliamentary election.
All right, so people are relieved and there's peaceful atmosphere right now. Thank you so much, Naval Singh, for all those details from Dhaka. And we have Professor Sanjay Bharadwaj joining us. Professor Sanjay Bharadwaj, School of International Studies, DNU, joining us on DD India. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on DD India. Firstly, Professor Sanjay, I wanted to ask you, how significant is this victory for the BNP, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, especially considering this was seen as the first truly competitive election in almost many years now? Sir, I think you are on the mute, right?
Yes. One can congratulate Tariq Rahman and BNP for this landslide victory in Bangladesh. But as a academic, I do find that this election would have been more inclusive if the Awami League would have been participating, because the contest in this election was between the two political parties which were siding or have these ideological similarities, where the BNP basically represents the soft Islam and the Jamaat-e-Islam represents the hard and radical Islam. So, of course, and they have been party together, ruled the country from 2001 to 2006 and contested together. And again in 2008, they were alliance against the Awami League. But this election was basically a contest in between these two political parties who had been traditionally allied with and sided had been one side. Now, in fact, there is also a referendum. You know, in this referendum, the people had voted yes and no, but there is majority of the people had voted yes.
Yes.
Now there is a possibility that two things would happen. One thing is that whether this parliament will work as the parliament and government, or this parliament will work as a constitutional reform council, and this constitutional reform council will work on the agenda of the referendum. This is one thing. Second thing, that either Mohammad Yunus is really transferring power to Tariq Rahman immediately, or he, as he mentioned earlier, that they will take 180 days to 70 days. That is a long time that the power would remain with the Mohammad Yunus or his caretaker government, and this parliament will work as a constitutional reforms council.
Right.
So I don't know how they will adjust with each other, but of course this mandate will give political stability to Bangladesh if Jamaat and this since for last 18 years Bangladesh has been ruled by the Pakistani mindset. Now I think the Bangladesh will be ruled by the Bangladeshi mindset, and they will think about Bangladesh more rather than thinking about the religion and thinking about Pakistan and Islamic solidarity and anti-Indianism. So I think this is a very good mandate and very good people's support to Tariq Rahman, and let him work for the best interest of Bangladesh, for the political stability, and that would definitely flourish. Not only in Bangladesh, but other South Asian countries will work together constructively. So I think we should respect this outcome and let Bangladesh have a stable government and work in conducive environment. And the radicals, what they have been doing in last 18 months, giving the very frivolous, very loose comments about India and India's northeast and that sharing. So I think that this Tariq Rahman government will come out all these rhetorics that had been created by the Jamaat-supported caretaker government. And Mohammad Yunus, I think he will step down and transfer power to the elected regime. And let this elected government, let this parliament work on the constitutions and the other issues about that. Because this July Charter, this is very clear that this July Charter was prepared by the people who revolted against Sheikh Hasina, and that has been hijacked by the Jamaat-e-Islam syndicate and coterie. So I think now the new journey in Bangladesh will start with the democratic regime, and let the other major political party, Awami League, also have its say in the later years and later electoral process in Bangladesh, so that the people will have more choice, in fact. Because, in the 8th parliamentary election was most objective elections, where the people had 86% Bangladeshis had voted in the election. But this election is voted just 47.8% of the people. Less than 50% of Bangladeshis had voted in this election. So you can't say this complete mandate, but yes, one should respect the electoral process and go ahead.
Right, so clear mandate out there, and as you rightly said, it would have been more inclusive had Awami League been also there. But given Bangladesh's elections now and its ongoing struggle with dynastic politics, how do you assess the country's potential to emerge now as a significant economic and strategic power in South Asian region?
No, it's very significant, very pertinent question, because for last 1.5 decade, you can say India had also been investing a lot in Bangladesh. We have extended largest line of credit to any country, that is Bangladesh. It is around $10 billion, and we have extended all for developmental projects, and we were trying to integrate the Eastern South Asia sub-region, and Bangladesh had reciprocated very well, and that's why you can see that Bangladesh was supposed to be graduated from the least developed countries to the developing countries in one way, and the other indicators like Human Development Index and you can see GDP growth were far better than many of the South Asian countries. So and the per capita income also was better than many of the South Asian countries. So let's hope that Bangladesh, the way they have been progressing in last 1.5 decades, would continue the same, and the contributors either from the ready-made government or the remittances or the other non-governmental organizations who had been instrumental in the growth of Bangladesh will continue. But only one thing that is very important, very significant: let Bangladesh have political stability. Let Bangladesh will not trap into the polarizations and religious politics and all that. So if the inclusive, progressive government, the governance will be there, then Bangladesh certainly will be on track again and will do as it has been doing in the past. Let them maintain very balanced foreign policy with India, with China, with Americans, and let not these powers should intervene in internal affairs of Bangladesh. And since India has very unique relations with Bangladesh, and we have very complex interdependencies, so that should be recognized, and we should work together for the betterment of the South Asia region, so that the extra-regional powers who want to play here, to want to make strategic depth in Bay of Bengal and wants to create its political and strategic influence, I think they let them keep them away. So I think Tariq Rahman, he had taken a lesson being outside of the country for last 17 years. Now he got opportunity. People had shown faith on him. So let him work for the betterment of the Bangladesh and the other political stakeholders in the country.
Right. Professor Sanjay, you spoke about Bangladesh being back on track with Prime Minister Narendra Modi now also extending congratulations. How might this result reshape India-Bangladesh relations?
No, I think that's why I'm talking about that. You know, we have complex interdependencies. We share the river waters, around 54 river waters, and in most of the cases, Bangladesh is the lower riparian. We have settled the land boundary agreements. We had basically had duty-free access to the Bangladeshi goods to India, and number of transit and transshipment corridors provided by each other for the betterment of economic development. I think it should provide a positive rationale to the Bangladeshi leadership and the government to again engage constructively, positively for the developmental issues with India, and rather than falling itself in the religious rhetorics and bringing the Pakistan's mindset into the political system of Bangladesh. And if Bangladesh foreign policy will look independently, it will cultivate its relations with India and will become the part of India's Act East policy and connecting with Southeast Asian countries, I think that would bring really a developmental drive that had been in the past for more than a decade. So let India and Bangladesh, they work together, and let them, they should have the idea of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, and join the developmental board with each other, so that we can provide the political stability, we can have the economic growth, and we can also address each other's security concerns that we have been working for last around 2 decades. So it's a good this good gesture, and I think Tariq Rahman in the election manifesto and when he was campaigning, he was indicating time and again that yes, we will work positive, constructive with India and we will try to issue if there is any issues of like Ganges Water Treaty is going to be expired in this year, there is Tista Water Treaty, and then other India security concerns, and let the other political actors should not give the loose comments about India's northeast and all that, because Bangladesh, they understand very well that if India's northeast is Bangladesh locked, then they should understand that Bangladesh is completely India locked, except the Bay of Bengal. So we should understand each other's sensitivities and should work together for the betterment and for the stability, and let the Eastern South Asia sub-region integrate together and not trap what the Pakistan has been doing in South Asia, in SAARC and all these things. I think this positive mindset would give a very conducive environment to work together with India, and because we have been very lenient to Bangladesh. Yes. We have given largest visa to any country in the world, that is Bangladesh. Every day we are issuing 7,000 visas. So you can calculate that how many visas we are giving for medical, for tourism, for education, for other purposes also. That Bangladeshis, they started thinking that yes, Kolkata is the next home to them for any kind of needs, any kind of shopping and marketing. Right. And and all that. So let this good gesture remain between the two countries for the future or for the development of the Bangladeshi people. They are basically, moreover, very secular, very inclusive. But since the radical factors, Jamaat-e-Islam, the collaborators, they have basically intervened. They have come after the Sheikh Hasina, and they tried to ruin the basic fabric and basic gestures what the Bangladeshi had been inherited from its independence from 1971. So let them work for democratically inclusive Bangladesh, and that would be good for Bangladesh, and that would be good for India as well.
All right. So the good news is that the Bangladesh is heading towards political stability. Thank you so much, Professor Sanjay Bharadwaj, for talking to us and giving us all that analysis. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Iran-US talks await date as Trump meets Netanyahu, signals no rush to strike. Canada mourns as Prime Minister Mark Carney joins Tumbler Ridge vigil after deadly school shooting. And Japan, US to speed up talks on first deals under investment package.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Kuran, and moving on, US President Donald Trump announced the repeal of a scientific finding that greenhouse gas emissions endanger human health, removing the legal basis for federal climate regulations. Well, it also ended subsequent federal greenhouse gas emission standards for all vehicles and engines of model years 2012 to 2027. The move represents the most sweeping climate change policy rollback by the administration to date, after a string of regulatory cuts and other moves intended to unfetter fossil fuel development and stymie the rollout of clean energy.
Under the process just completed by the EPA, we are officially terminating the so-called endangerment finding, a disastrous Obama-era policy that severely damaged the American auto industry and massively drove up prices for American consumers. That's why, effective immediately, we are repealing the ridiculous endangerment finding and terminating all additional green emission standards imposed unnecessarily on vehicle models and engines between 2012 and 2027 and beyond.
And moving on, the European Union leaders have agreed on a wide-ranging set of commitments to improve how the bloc's border-free internal market works so Europe's businesses can be competitive and survive aggressive economic rivalry from especially the US and China. Reducing Europe's dependencies on countries outside the bloc has gained greater urgency because of geopolitical shocks, intensified global competition and an economy that lags behind bigger powers. Now, the discussion, a Belgian castle brought a new energy on building a more resilient economy, echoed EU chief Antonio Costa, promising concrete measures would be taken in the next leaders' meeting in March. But big divisions remained on show among the EU's 27 capitals. On the crucial matter of debt, the lines did not appear to have moved. Now, the leaders, backed by influential European figures, believe the key to transforming the 27-country bloc's economies to deepen the single market and make it easier for businesses to work across the continent.
We have agreed that next European Council in March, I will present a One Europe, One Market roadmap, an action plan that shows very detailed what are we going to do with timelines, with targets, and with a clear limit of time also to deliver. And the ambition is that we will have this document committed and agreed by not only the Commission, but also the two co-legislators, that is the European Council and the Parliament.
Well, the NATO defense ministers met in Brussels to discuss fresh commitments for military support for Ukraine as the conflict with Russia enters its fifth year now. Britain had committed $205 million to the so-called prioritized Ukraine requirements list, PURL initiative to supply Ukraine with US weapons. The scheme allows allies to fund purchases of American air defense systems and other critical equipment for Kyiv. British Defence Minister John Healey said that pledges from Britain and allies totaling $35 billion of military aid for Ukraine.
We can save lives, we can pressure Putin, and we can agree peace, but only if we step up together. So together, I can confirm at today's UDCG, we pledged a total of $35 billion worth of new military aid for Ukraine. For our part, the UK is spending the highest level of support for military aid for Ukraine ever, and at this UDCG I announced a new £500 million package of urgent air defence support for Ukraine, President Zelensky's top priority.
Well, the allies have already put forward over $4.5 billion through the program. The pledges were made at a meeting of the Ukraine Defence Contact Group, which comprises 50 nations co-chaired by Britain and Germany.
Ukraine needs our support now more than ever. And we must also support the vision of Minister Fedorov when it comes to 2026 and to make Ukraine as strong as possible in the fight. And I'm urging all nations to step up their support and to share that burden.
One thing we will contribute to is what is referred to as a city dome project. It is concerned with the improvement of air defense above Ukraine's metropolitan areas that are under threat.
Well, Iran and the United States have yet to set a date for a new round of talks after an initial encounter last week on the contested Iranian nuclear program. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and US President Donald Trump met on Wednesday to discuss about creating the conditions to reach a deal with Iran that would avoid military action. Now, Netanyahu said he told Trump Israel needed any deal to include a halt to Iran's nuclear program, limits on its ballistic missiles, and Iran's proxies. Also, Netanyahu's visit was more muted than usual and close to the press. The two leaders spoke behind closed doors for more than 2.5 hours in what Trump described as a very good meeting. Also, Donald Trump said no major decisions were made and stopped short of publicly accepting Netanyahu's entreaties. But for now, the US president is not rushing to launch military action against the Islamic Republic.
We have to make a deal, otherwise it's going to be very traumatic. Very traumatic. I don't want that to happen, but we have to make a deal. They should have made a deal the first time, and they got Midnight Hammer instead. And this will be very traumatic for Iran if they don't make a deal.
And this year's Munich Security Conference is drawing a lot of attention as relations between Europe and the United States remain strained. There are a lot of divisions on trade and social media regulation despite recent agreements on defense. Now, the Europeans are anticipating a more conciliatory message from US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who is set to address the conference. At last year's conference, US Vice President J.D. Vance sparked controversy by accusing European leaders of censoring free speech and failing to manage immigration. The conference will open on Friday with remarks by German Chancellor Friedrich Merz and conclude on Sunday. Well, up to 5,000 police officers will be deployed during the Munich Security Conference. There will also be international support from Austria, Switzerland, France and the Netherlands, though several protests and gatherings have been planned. Two Mexican-flagged ships carrying humanitarian aid entered Havana harbor as Cuba's long-term ally made good on a promise to assist the island nation after Washington threatened to impose tariff on countries that supply oil to the island. U.S. claimed that Cuba poses an extraordinary threat to the country's national security, an assertion that Havana denies. Mexico announced the delivery of aid after suspending shipments of crude oil and other refined products to the island weeks ago. And Japanese authorities said on Friday that the fisheries agency seized a Chinese fishing boat and arrested its captain. The Japanese fisheries agency in a statement said that it has seized a Chinese fishing boat and arrested its skipper for allegedly defying an order to stop. Now, the incident happened on Thursday inside Japan's exclusive economic zone of Nagasaki Prefecture. The incident marks the first time since 2022 that the agency has seized a Chinese fishing boat. The vessel is also the first foreign fishing boat seized by the agency this year. There were 11 people on board, including the captain. The move is expected to further heighten tensions between the two neighbors. It was the first time since 2022 that the Japanese agency has seized a Chinese fishing boat. The arrest of another Chinese fishing boat captain in 2010 off those islands in the East China Sea became a major diplomatic incident between the two nations. And Japan has agreed with the United States to accelerate talks on the first batch of deals under Japan's $550 billion investment package. Japan's Trade Minister Ryoshi Akazawa on Thursday said that the two nations are agreed to hold further talks on first batch of trade deals. Akazawa told media that the talks are being conducted with Prime Minister Sanae Takachi's planned U.S. visit in mind to ensure it is fruitful. Now, Japan has been under pressure to move faster on implementing the investment package agreed as part of Tokyo's deal with Washington to lower tariffs on Japanese exports. Japan's investment package would include equity, loans, and loan guarantees from state-owned agencies Japan Bank for International Cooperation and Nippon Export and Investment Insurance. Also, the United States signed a deal with Taiwan to confirm lower U.S. tariffs on the island's goods alongside Taiwanese spending commitments on American products. Now, the final reciprocal trade agreement was signed on Thursday, confirmed a 15% U.S. tariff rate for imports from Taiwan, while committing Taiwan to a schedule for eliminating or lowering tariffs on nearly all U.S. goods. Now, the document released by the U.S. Trade Representative's Office on Thursday also commits Taiwan to significantly boost purchases of U.S. goods from 2025 through 2029. The deal will immediately eliminate Taiwan's tariffs of up to 26% on many U.S. agricultural imports. Under the deal, Taiwan will also remove non-tariff barriers on motor vehicles and accept U.S. auto safety standards as well as those on medical devices and pharmaceuticals. Well, the White House Borders Czar Tom Homan on Thursday stated U.S. President has agreed to halt his unprecedented and widely protested deportation surge in Minnesota. He added that a significant reduction in the operation is already in progress and will continue through next week. City leaders and residents are consciously reacting to news that the immigration enforcement surge is winding down, with protests set to continue until there is clear evidence it has fully ended. Federal agents carried out thousands of aggressive raids in Minnesota that have sparked mass protest in Minneapolis and drawn widespread criticism after the fatal federal agent shootings of Rennie Good and Alex Pretty.
With that, in success that has been made arresting public safety threats and other priorities since this surge operation began, as well as the unprecedented levels of coordination we have obtained from state officials and local law enforcement, I have proposed, and President Trump has concurred, that this surge operation conclude. A significant drawdown has already been underway this week and will continue through the next week.
Well, some updates on Canada shooting now. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney will join mourners on Friday in British Columbia town of Tumbler Ridge that is grieving after 8 people were killed in a mass school shooting. Carney will attend a vigil in Tumbler Ridge in memory of the victims, and he invited leaders from all political parties to join him in the town. Near the school, a bouquet of flowers and stuffed animals were placed at the foot of the tree. Yellow police tape surrounded the school buildings and a snow-covered volleyball court. Earlier, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police on Thursday named the victims of the mass shooting. Police said Jessie Van Roetseelaar killed her mother and stepbrother before shooting dead 6 people at the town's high school, including a female teacher, 3 girls and 2 boys. And the Argentine Chamber of Deputies has passed a bill to lower the age of criminal responsibility from 16 to 14 years. The reform now needs approval from the Senate. The bill was passed by 149 votes to 100 and reflects President Javier Milei's tough-on-crime approach. The government said the new youth criminal law will help fight impunity, ensure faster justice, and stop repeat offences by minors. It also promised to maintain order in the streets. And still to come on DD India News Hour. PM's Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana emerges as game changer in India's clean energy drive. Piyush Goyal says India-US trade pact safeguards the farmers. And India leverages AI to shift to proactive, real-time climate action.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching TTT News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will unveil the name of the building complex Seva Tirth today. He will thereafter formally inaugurate Seva Tirth and Kartavya Bhavan 1 and 2 and also address a public program at Seva Tirth later in the day. Well, the inauguration marks a transformative milestone in India's administrative governance architecture and reflects the Prime Minister's commitment to building a modern, efficient, accessible and citizen-centric governance ecosystem. Seva Tirth houses the Prime Minister's office, the National Security Council Secretariat, the Cabinet Secretariat, all of which were previously located across different locations. Kartavya Bhavan 1 and 2 accommodate several key ministers, including the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Defence and others. But both building complexes feature digitally integrated offices, structured public interface zones and centralized reception facilities. These features will foster collaboration, efficiency, seamless governance, improved citizen engagement and enhanced employee well-being. Designed in accordance with 4-star Graha standards, the complexes incorporate renewable energy systems, water conservation measures, waste management solutions and high-performance building envelopes. These measures significantly reduce environmental impact while enhancing operational efficiency. Also, the building complexes include comprehensive safety and security frameworks such as smart access control systems, surveillance networks, and advanced emergency response infrastructure, ensuring a secure and accessible environment for officials and the visitors. While India is powering its future right from the rooftops, the dream of delivering clean, affordable and reliable energy to every household in India now appears to be turning into reality. The Prime Minister Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana, or the free electricity scheme, is fast emerging as a game changer in India's clean energy push. Launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in February 2024, the initiative is not limited to electricity generation alone. It is a major step towards savings, environmental protection and self-reliance. Within just 2 years of its implementation, positive results are emerging across the country. In the central Indian state of Madhya Pradesh, over 29,000 consumers across 16 districts have registered under the scheme so far. They feel the bringing real change in people's lives at the grassroots level.
We have installed rooftop solar panel under PM Surya Ghar Net Zero scheme. This has completely changed the way we use electricity at our homes. Our power bills have reduced 5 to 6 times and we are generating our own green and sustainable energy. And by this, we have also become a proud contributor in our Prime Minister's vision of Net Zero scheme. Jai Hind.
Well, a total of more than 29 lakh households have installed a solar capacity, out of which 87,000 households are in Assam itself. One such household in Assam is in Nadigala Gaon in Dibrugarh, which has benefited from the scheme. The biggest advantage of the scheme lies in the fact that it provides a subsidy of up to 40% for rooftop solar panel installation and offers collateral-free, low-interest loans for up to 3 kilowatt residential rooftop solar systems.
Now the bill is reduced to like 500 or 400. So basically we have cut down 90 or 80% of the bill amount, and So we are getting some good benefits. I have placed a 3 kilowatt system here and additional 1 kilowatt. So now we are getting around 3.1 or 3.2 at this good sunlight. So by installing this, we have reduced the amount of electricity from the grid. Now we are generating our own electricity.
Well, moving on, India's Trade and Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has once again asserted that the India-US Trade Pact fully protects farmers' interest. In a social media post on X, Goyal said that around 90% to 95% of farm products produced in India have been left out of the trade agreement, in which the interest of farmers have been protected. He stressed that the pact does not touch sensitive agriculture and dairy. The minister also assured the nation that under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership, farmers of the country will always be secure, empowered and prosperous.
In the recent trade deal with the United States of America, the interests of farmers have been kept paramount and fully protected. In this agreement, all major crops of farmers, including wheat, rice, millets, soya meal, corn, GM food products, spices, potatoes have been fully safeguarded. We have also fully protected the interests of farmers producing major fruits, including apples. India's doors have not been opened to dairy products or poultry. The truth is that many of our products, including basmati rice, fruits, spices, tea, marine products, and many more, will find new markets, increase our exports, and boost farmer incomes. We have opened huge markets for cotton textile exports, which will increase the demand for cotton manifold, benefiting our cotton farmers. Every decision taken in the trade deal is in the best interest of Bharat and 140 crore Indians, including our farmers, our youth.
Well, as per SBI research report, India's trade surplus with the United States could exceed $90 billion annually. This growth has been driven by rising exports and higher import potential. The agreement with the US, back on the heels of a wide arc of trade deals with the EU and the UK, catapults India to a unique strategic position wherein the country are poised to gain much. Now, the report says India's exports of $1.36 billion of agricultural commodities will receive zero additional US duty access. India's export to US on agri-commodities is also set to jump, as 75% will now be at zero tariff. Indian exporters could boost their top 15 items exports to the US by $97 billion yearly, with total exports potentially crossing $100 billion annually after recent tariff reductions. Now, the trade surplus is already showing strong signs of growth. It reached $40.9 billion in financial year 25 and $26 billion in financial year 26. The report also said the extra export push could help push the surplus beyond $90 billion yearly, potentially adding 1.1% to India's GDP. And moving on, India is increasingly leveraging artificial intelligence to address its high vulnerability to climate change, moving from reactive, data-dependent and slow-moving responses to proactive, anticipatory and real-time strategies. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya has more in this report.
As climate change intensifies, India is turning to artificial intelligence as a powerful tool to strengthen climate action, resilience, and sustainable development. India is among the world's most climate vulnerable countries, Over 85% of its population is exposed to extreme weather risk. Traditionally, climate response relied on historical data and delayed action. Today, AI is helping India move from reaction to anticipation.
AI today can be leveraged to actually identify from geospatial data, from satellite data, which are the areas where we are going to see more extreme climate events, whether it is extreme heat stresses, whether it is flood events, whether it is droughts in the future. As the climate changes, we are going to see more extreme heat impacts. And so that we can start planning for those right from today. If you need to change our cropping system, if you need to evolve our, let's say, infrastructure design of our cities to reduce heat stress, all of that is today possible with AI.
Using machine learning, satellite imagery, and high-resolution climate models, agencies like Indian Meteorological Department have significantly improved the accuracy of cyclone, flood, and heat wave forecast. These advances have helped reduce cyclone-related fatalities by over 90% since 1990s, an achievement now studied globally as a model for disaster risk reduction. AI-enabled forecasting and smart grid system predicts solar and wind generation, balance electricity demand, and reduce transmission losses. These technologies are crucial to India's commitment of achieving net zero emission by 2070. AI is also strengthening environmental protection. Satellite-based analytics monitor forest cover across 7.1 lakh square kilometers, enabling near real-time detection of deforestation, forest fires, and illegal mining. Along India's 7,500-kilometer coastline, AI model assess sea level rise, shoreline erosion, and cyclone risk, helping coastal communities prepare for a future shaped by climate uncertainty. In cities, AI platforms map air pollution, predict heat stress, and support climate action plans in urban centers facing rising temperatures and declining air quality. From saving lives through early warnings to securing farms, forests, and clean energy, artificial intelligence is powering India's climate fight, transforming data into action and resilience for the future. With camera person Mukesh, this is Taposh Bhattacharya for DD India from Delhi.
And in sports, India's winning juggernaut continued in the T20 World Cup 2026 with a comprehensive 93-run victory over Namibia on Thursday at the Arun Jaitley Stadium in Delhi. The men in blue registered their biggest victory in the tournament's history and also extended their record unbeaten streak to 11 matches. India climbed to the top of Group B with 4 points from 2 matches and an impressive net run rate. They will next take on arch rivals Pakistan in a highly anticipated fixture on February 15th in Colombo. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Coming up next is an exclusive conversation with Mr. Venugopal Lambu, the CEO and MD of LTI Mindtree, who talks about the benefits of AI for common people and the economy and why democratization of the technology is so much important for the world, which is progressing at a very fast pace. Listen in.
Hello and welcome to our special segment on DD India. Well, the nation is all set to host the AI Impact Summit, and ahead of it, we are now joined by Mr. Venugopal Lambu, the CEO and MD of LTI Mindtree, to talk about the significance and potential impact of the summit on the entire world. So thank you so much for joining us on this special segment. Well, LTI Mindtree acts as a digital transformational partner, and it also has an important stake in the changing ecosystem of business and economy. How important is AI, and what is LTI Mindtree doing to ensure its safe and maximum utilization for global good?
Firstly, thanks for inviting me to be here. It's my pleasure to be here. Look, AI is hugely important for us. It is one of the most breakthrough innovation, and that too happening at such a short innovation cycles. We see a great opportunity, not just about how we redefine our businesses so that we can add value to our clients. But the role that AI has at the wider economy as well, in terms of, how does it make the entire workforce more productive? How do we address some of the most complex problems, in the community, whether it's the challenges related to the healthcare, education, access of, to the vulnerable areas or to the weaker section of the society. So, while it has a bigger business agenda, it has equally a bigger agenda, to the wider society at large.
India is hosting the much-needed AI Impact Summit, and the initiative is being lauded globally. And it is one such platform where stakeholders will be coming under one roof. Tell us how this summit and more such initiatives can be a game changer.
Look, we are excited about the participation in the summit. It's a great opportunity, to exchange thoughts, ideas, and most importantly, establish the ideas that originate from India, the services that gets created in India, and the capability that will be built in India, whether it's the AI infrastructure capability or the AI application services capabilities or our own models, that will start emerging and getting strengthened. It's a great story, for India to put, its stake on the table, and most importantly, I do believe, we have a very unique opportunity with such an access to a talent workforce, to be a very leading player in the global AI marketplace, and we are really excited to be part of it.
There are many apprehensions around the usage of AI. Many think that it is going to harm the skill-based force and also reduce employment opportunities. As the central force of the industry, how would you address this perception of AI being seen as a threat to potential job opportunities?
Look, there is no doubt that aspects of AI technologies will be able to do quite a few activities that currently the humans are doing, probably at a better pace, greater quality, with a higher intelligence level, and most importantly, do it at a lesser cost. So there is a new productivity paradigm that's been challenged, for all businesses and all communities. So that's definitely going to happen. But I actually look at it, the positive side of it. The positive side of it is that, one is it takes time to get this adoption at scale, right? The AI capability always gets built at exponential speed, but the adoption doesn't necessarily match with that speed. So there is a gap between these two, the tracks, if I may say, and that's where the opportunity lies for us, to move at a greater speed in reimagining the talent skill sets, and if you're in the business, to redefine the capabilities and services, leveraging AI to your customers. And this is also a great opportunity to actually, build the education curriculum and the entire talent supply chain for the world, so that when the adoption gets its speed and comes at the population scale, you really address some of the core talent transformation skill set. You have built a great infrastructure that support the AI services, and also the businesses have reimagined themselves, to sort of thrive and grow in the AI era. So in the short term, the narrative seems to be more about job losses. But I think we should get over with that narrative, talk about the bigger opportunity that lies over there. And to capture that big opportunities, what's the roadmap we need to have, both as the businesses and the communities at large, and work towards that in making it happen. So I think somewhere I would call upon, to all the leaders to actually change the narrative more about optimism and the growth that is needed. And at the same time, make sure that there is a clear-cut plan that each of us as the business leaders have for our businesses in how we transform and succeed and thrive in the AI era. And that's what we are doing within LTM Entry.
From the European Union to many other developed countries, many are looking forward to AI regulations as well. And many are now eyeing the AI India Impact Summit, where great stakeholders like you, are coming under one roof to discuss the implications of AI. What is it that AI offers for the coming future, especially considering the fact that India is looking forward to become a developed nation by the year 2047 and is also eyeing to become the third largest economy?
Look, I think the possibilities of AI in redefining, the workforce of the future, in redefining how the data will be consumed to deliver different services that gets built on the AI technologies, is changing at a much faster pace. So there is a need, to sort of strengthen the governance aspect for every country with regard to the data, and same applies for India as well. The sovereign capabilities then for the entire AI stack is hugely strategic. Having our own AI stack, is more of a strategic sovereignty capability that every country will have, and so will be in India. And that's a role that we are playing as well as an IT services company. We are doing our bit, in that entire AI stack to pick up areas where we can focus and deliver it. And we do that. We try to address the entire AI stack by partnering with the other companies within our group companies. But that's where the real opportunity lies. And there is a need to strengthen, invest, and double down our focus in building AI stack for India and AI stack out of India.
That's very important. Now, through the first ever AI Impact Summit, India is also aiming to position itself in securing a large role in shaping global AI governance. Can this also soon become a mantra whose blueprint can be shared across the world, like how India is leading from the front in the UPI sector as well?
Look, we have whenever I travel to India and when I bring my clients, they get really impressed, with the digital economy that exists over there. So, we've been trendsetter in many areas as such on the digital evolution. So I find no reason why we can play a much more leading role in defining what should be the to-be governance models, for data, for the entire AI stack that needs to have a sovereign flavor into it. And most importantly, the kind of services we can build to address the challenges that the population at scale faces. If we can do that, it'll evolve into its own global narrative, where we can set ourselves a great example.
What more can be done to ensure safe usage of AI across the country and the world?
Look, I think in general, the topic of ethical AI, the AI safety, whether it's about data safety or how the AI is used to represent certain part of the content, all that, requires, a continued focus. I know there are a lot of discussions happening around that. There are rules that are changed, that are being made to address the issues over there. So while we talk about the opportunities that AI brings in challenging the productivity, in creating the new future workforce, in creating new services and addressing complex problems of the world and the businesses, we just can't ignore the fact that the foundation of all this needs to be built by a very strong AI safety governance. And also there is an ethical aspect of it, right? There are certain things, also has to be looked through an ethical lens. So, both the security from a technology standpoint and ethical from the moral and the governance standpoint, both needs to be, a very integral part of our strategy.
All right. Sir, thank you so much. We are really looking forward to your participation at the upcoming AI Impact Summit. Thank you so much for joining us and getting us a very important rounded perspective on AI, its usage, governance, and of course, the ethical usage of it globally. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So there you heard from Mr. Venugopal himself, who talked about AI ahead of the much important AI India Impact Summit. That's all in this special segment. Thank you so much for joining us.